Hello, my name is Eric, and this is my take for one of the two assignments I was given to choose for the admission at Willem de Keuning. Specifically, this is for the activism assignment, for which I've chosen a topic I've always been quite interested in speaking of, cross-dressing and the evolution of fashion in history. As of today, society still has a big chunk of population believing that clothes are divided by sex for more reasons than just body measurements. Many people aren't open-minded enough yet and still believe there are clothes or accessories that should be exclusively worn by men or women. Well, here's the catch. Fashion is cyclic, and many of the clothes and accessories that have been stereotyped to be worn by men or women have been worn by both sexes throughout our entire history. A great example of this are skirts. Many people see a man wearing a skirt nowadays and think it's an offense to their masculinity and their image. But if we look back to the Greeks, the Romans, the Middle Easterns, the Egyptians, we see that they had no problem wearing these. It was a common and comfortable piece of clothing for hot weather, which allowed for great freedom of movement for your legs. And you may say, that was way too far ago. But if we look at the Scottish and the Irish nowadays, they don't seem to have a problem wearing their kilts. Another great example I would like to bring up are high heels. High heels are stereotypically associated as feminine clothing, while being yet another case of fashion originally designed for men as well. High heels had been used by Persians for the longest time and were introduced to Western Europe in the 16th century to the upper class. The most iconic case being Louis XIV, often portrayed with these shoes as a symbol of his power and masculinity. And the list goes on. Trousers, blazers, button-down shirts, ties, trench coats, suspenders, loafers. Yet, we found ourselves to be even ashamed of wearing some of these, thinking it could damage our look just because we're not following what we've seen standardized as we've grown up. A common phrase we hear from close-minded people when they see a man breaking the gender norms are, "Men used to go to war." Well, guess what? There's tons of pictures of men in World War I and II cross-dressing and performing drag with their friends in the army. Why? It's not our business. It could mean anything to each one of them. But one thing's for sure, they liked it. Taking all of this into account, I decided to make a humoristic panel which I slightly animated. In the panel, I represent a close-minded person reacting in a negative way to a man wearing a skirt and high heels nowadays, while I put Louis XIV next to him, reacting in a positive way, complimenting him. I gave the close-minded person a great color palette to try to emphasize the idea that the ones staying behind in the fashion race are the ones limiting themselves to their gender norms. For the style, I tried to go for something simple, inspired from comics like Calvin and Hobbes or Peanuts. Overall, with this project, all I want to say is that clothes are unisex, and I encourage people to try clothing of all sorts. You may or may not like them, but you won't know till you try. After all, gender is a spectrum and a social construct, and clothes are just pieces of fabric that happen to be worn by us. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope I was able to change your perspective on this topic thanks to my work and my words. See ya!